Alrighty. Alright, well, yes, as you can see, I am not dead. And I am bringing you yet another Dead by Daylight news update. So, I believe the twins are scheduled to come out next week, so there's not really much to tell about the new chapter just yet. But, there is a little bit of news that I can share with you as I play a little Survivor game and just chill. So, oh, before I forget, I better put a challenge on. Ooh, that could have been bad. I am behind on this. Alright, let's see. 10 pallets. Okay, not too hard at all. Anyway, so the devs announced earlier today that that events are going to be undergoing a bit of a change. So they said, and I pretty much agree with this, the 4th anniversary events and the Halloween events are the biggest events Dead by Daylight has all year. But the problem is, in order to make, we all saw how the Eternal Blight went this year. It was by far the worst iteration of the event so far, and it upset a lot of people because it wasn't really an event even. And so, to basically prevent this from happening again, the devs have decided that instead they're going to be taking all the focus off the other events that Dead by Daylight does because they were never really huge for the game as is, and they're going to pool those resources into the other events, so into the anniversary and Halloween events, in order to give better quality whenever those events come around. And I kind of agree with this because it's like I said on their Twitter, most of the events, I would much rather have the 2 big events of the year for Dead by Daylight be big grand slam events and be really fun and awesome and have cool stuff to offer, rather than make a bunch of crappy events that nobody really cares about scattered throughout the year because they're trying to rush something together at the last minute. So instead, for the Christmas event, or well, yeah, I guess I'm going to call it that loosely. It's going to probably be a lot like last year, because all they do is they put the presents in the blood webs, and they can give you higher tier stuff for cheaper on your blood webs, so that's kind of cool. And there's also like a daily login reward track, and which you can starting December 1st. And if you log in every day, you'll get some currencies. They haven't specified what kind, and other smaller type things like that. And they've also said that every Monday they will be releasing a code to you, both on their social media, and they'll also be doing it on the news page in-game. So be sure you're checking that out every week to get the code, put it in the store, and claim whatever your free cosmetic, I believe it is, every week. So they're kind of doing something like that, where it's just an attendance reward system, and I'm honestly okay with that, because what were they really going to do? They didn't do hardly anything for a Christmas event last year. The only thing that was really cool about it, for me, was the menu music. I loved it. So, that's the big one. Other than that, I'll admit, I think this is I want to talk about the next chapter a little bit, since the announcement was kind of short. I think this next chapter is probably the least hyped I've ever seen the community for a patch, or a chapter, I should say. The killer doesn't really have anybody particularly decided. There's no one speculating, oh, are they going to be top tier or not? I mean, everyone basically is already thinking the same thing. These killers are not going to be very great in their current condition, especially since part of their kit is not even finished and will not be shipped out on release, more likely than not. And that's the mechanic for Victor to hold survivors in lockers if they jump into them, to prevent locker abuse. But I've seen a lot of problems with this killer on the PTB. Like, they put an anti-camping mechanic to where you can't swap between Victor or Charlotte if you're within a certain range of the hook, and it's a pretty fair distance. And I found out survivors can abuse that heavily, because it doesn't matter for survivors within the range or not, you will not be able to use your power. So a survivor can bum rush the hook and you literally are just M1 killer. You have no power, you have nothing. And I think that's not cool. I like that they're trying to make, it's nice that they're trying to make the survivor experience better by preventing heavy camping mechanics, But when it is only for, but if the killer's the only one who gets punished, who has to worry about mechanics like that, it becomes a bit of a problem. Especially in a game like Dead by Daylight, where the balance, I mean, as many people in the upper levels of play would tell you, is a lot worse than what some people think at the highest levels of play. We just, ironically, the terrible matchmaking system is the only thing making this game feel like it's somewhat well balanced. Man, this map has got some major issues with performance. Hopefully these get all sorted out eventually. So do forgive me, I have 2 weeks of rust to shake off as I'm doing this. Not to mention I'm not even really using a super meta build or anything. Just a bit of a farming build, really. Working on getting Ace leveled up so I can grab him some, so I can make another build on... She's scared the bejesus out of me. But yeah, and then there's stuff like you can't body block pallets with Charlotte like you think you'd be able to, because it encourages you to use both of the killers in order to hunt efficiently. But if you stun Charlotte with a pallet, she immediately gets sucked back in and you lose control of Victor. And then there's the infamous taking Victor hostage, which if you use Victor to attack a healthy survivor, he will latch onto them and will hit them with a couple status effects. Alright, it's a hag. But it's not anything super crazy. And the survivor has been like, oh, well, if I just hold on to Victor, then it doesn't matter anymore, because the killer doesn't have... I may be out of commission for doing gens, but I can literally do everything else, and... except heal, and... the killer is... oh, hello. The killer is left without a power. Okay. So there's a hag trap there. Let's hide in this little booth. Did she already disappear? Oh my gosh. You greedy wench. Oh well. This Fang and I are not going to be friends. At least I got a protection hit. That's what I wanted more than anything else, to be honest with you. Okay. Damn it! I fucked it up. And if I had Dead Hard, I could have done even better. Ah well. It was a good trap. I just underestimated the range. I don't go against Hag much. I play Hag quite a bit, but I don't play against her very much. But, what was I saying? Oh yes, and then there's things like, even if Victor gets it down on a survivor, he can be immediately killed, and then once he's killed, it's like, eh. If a survivor has sufficiently powerful, healing perks equipped, like, We're Gonna Live Forever, is the perfect example. I'm gonna get tunneled. And I have nowhere to go. Oh, I don't think she was expecting me to do that. But it doesn't matter, because there's no pallets. I'm really gonna get tunneled right now. I hate this Fangman. I knew we weren't gonna be friends the moment she stole my fucking save. And here she is getting me killed, so that's great. So now she's gonna trap me in here and I'm gonna get tunneled to death, unfortunately. Rusty and using honestly a shit build. It's just a meme build more than anything. Anyway, away from my frustration with the match. The killer is just has a really cool concept. It's very obvious just by the way they set this killer up and the oversights that came with the production of this killer, like the locker abuse. And they took a lot of time to make sure the killers couldn't be scummy with the killer in any regard, but they did no such thing on the survivor end. They were so focused on the survivor experience that they forgot that the killer needs to have a good experience too. And that's why I don't think very many people are excited for this killer right now. The killer's coming in incomplete, and honestly, probably the weakest killer in Dead by Daylight. Yeah. Well, I got nowhere to go and no DS to use. I need to heal. I can try to go for a save, but I need to heal first. And unfortunately, our gens are not getting done very quickly either. Only one gen has been done, and that hasn't been by me and Fang. Alright. Hopefully, since she's being chased... Okay, there we go. Gen getting done there. Fuck. That was completely my fault. Oh, nice, DS. We were smarter than me. At least got her some time to get away from the basement, and got a stack, 2 stacks off that. So, can't complain too loudly, now can I? Even if the match isn't exactly going too well for me specifically. So hopefully the twins get adjusted over time, but the released twins are definitely not going to be strong. I just don't see it happening. Because even with the locker change, I mean, even if the locker change would come with the patch, which it's not according to the devs themselves, or most likely not at least, then it still wouldn't be that great. Oh man. I feel bad. This hag is a heavy tunneler. Here, let me... I have a lot of healing. I can heal you very quick. It's one thing this build is good for. Relieving the pressure of injuries. Oh, I see. Definitely gonna scooch my way out of that. Alright, I'll admit, that was decent. You're not really, are you? I was about to say... Oh my gosh, did you see the frame drop on that? That was absurd. I can self-heal now. Thankfully that other random's been doing gens like a trooper. No, I got this one. I'm almost done anyway. Besides, I want my survivable points. This build is pretty decent at generating points, not gonna lie to you. You know, I might update this build just a little bit. I can just figure out... Aha! Hopefully Fang has found another gem. I'm on death hook, so I gotta be very careful. That other guy's doing a pretty decent job of chasing, though. So that's a good thing. Ooh, nice. Alright, she's not too far away, but by the time she hooks her and gets over here, I should have this gen about done. The other guy's trying to body block. Don't know if that's a wise decision, but... I thought he didn't see me, but he must have. No other reason to come up here. Actually, I should go for an exit door. Don't know what I'm thinking. No. DS again? Nope. That's a dead teammate right there. Yeah, I was that far away from the door. Oh, she has kindred. Oh, nice. However, unless you have DS, that's curtains. Oh my gosh. Sincerely fuck the random skill checks when you let go. Although she might have nurses. Oh well. You better run. So yeah, not really much else to talk about. Unfortunately, there's just a real lack of news in Dead by... Well, actually, there is one more thing I can go over. The Bloodlust experiment. No, I wasn't here for it. But, based on my experience as killer, a lot of people have been making the comments like, well, Bloodlust is like, it never activated unless you were staying in the chase too long anyway. It's like, well, that's not true, now is it? There are still plenty of loops in the game, like Shack Loop and other loops of similar power and safety, that where you would almost for sure get at least a Bloodlust 1. And I mean, think about all the times as killer you're in a chase, Bloodlust activates at a semi-safe tile, and you're just barely able to get around that loop as they're mind-gamming them. And I feel like it's kind of disingenuous to pretend that Bloodlust has no effect on stuff like that. And I also think it's gonna create a problem with stuff like the Spine Chill and Resilience Vault Speed build. Now, I do not hide my general distaste with that perk combo, because I feel like it's too powerful, because it gives you a bunch of boosts already that are small by themselves, but together they stack up semi-decently, and one of them literally you don't have any requirements except that the killer is looking at you, and that is, if they're chasing you, that means you're getting the full advantage of the perk through the vault speed boost. And then Resilience, yeah, you gotta be injured, but I mean, that's not that big of a detriment in DBD, especially when perks like Dead Hard exist. So, and I feel like perks like those, and movement speed perks and stuff like that, are just, and even loops that weren't completely safe before, are going to become more safe, because you're not going to have any, you're going to remain at a constant speed, which means they can basically perfectly predict every time how many loops you can do before they get caught, because there's no speed boost to help you not waste as much time. And even characters like Huntress, who aren't normally M1 killers, it goes beyond that. The M1 killers I feel are going to hurt the most from this, but even non-M1 killers like Huntress, she uses Bloodlust to try to burn down some of those loops that she can't throw over, because she has no choice but to brute force them, and that helps shorten the time waste. And I feel like it's... Now, the devs have said, oh, we don't have any plans for it, but it's like, why would you test it if you weren't thinking about something, though? And I feel like that there are things like that I mean, maybe in the future, when the maps have been reworked and polished and a decent balance for loops has been found, and they're not adding in new infinites with breakable walls to be the quote-unquote balancing point, I feel like when those things get addressed, then Bloodlust might not be needed anymore. Or at the very least, if they would just update all these old killers that are just M1 killers and give them ways to chase without just M1ing and having no power, like Legion, Trapper. I mean, Trapper, yeah, he's got his traps, but I mean, he still has to chase as an M1 killer like 80% of the match. And then you got, then you got like Wraith, Myers, Pig, characters like them. And I feel like it's an interesting conversation, but now is definitely not the time for Bloodlust to be even thought of being removed, just because, just alone because there are still plenty of maps which are broken. Haddonfield, the farm maps, the Asylum. It's just, oof, it gives me chills just thinking about it. If anyone's played a T1 Myers build, you kind of understand that, you kind of already know what Bloodlust is like. Now granted, he's not full movement speed, but it's still going to be a similar effect. If the survivors find a place that's safe against your movement speed, you will not be able to close that distance any faster, if at all. It's like how I brought up the vaulting build before. The vaulting build has I was playing, before I stopped playing for a couple of weeks, I was playing against survivors on, what was it again? Sorry, Mother's Dwelling. And if any of you know the Smokehouse Tower, it's kind of an annoying loop, but not overly safe. Well, this guy was running me around this loop, and he was mid-vaulting through the window, and somehow, even though I swung early and everything, I wasn't hitting him. It took me once or twice to realize, oh, he must have the vault speed build, because there's no way he's vaulting this window that fast, even with the mid-vault speed buff they gave about like 6 months ago, or maybe a bit longer. And sure enough, he did have it. And just those two perks were allowing him to turn that one normally unsafe loop into basically a semi-infinite. Now, I know I can't say it's an infinite, because technically, thanks to the entity blockers, infinites no longer exist. Just bullshittingly strong loops. And those two, the vault build turns moderately safe loops into ultra safe loops, and it turns ultra safe loops into, or just plain safe loops into god loops. And then god loops, it just ascends the god loops too. And that's why I feel like things like Bloodlust should not be getting touched until things like that are sorted out. This game still has a lot of other issues that it needs to work out before it starts removing mechanics when it's not even at its full functionality. But I'll save more talking on this for next week, or whenever I make another Dead by Daylight video. Hopefully next week I'll have a lot more to talk about, because hopefully the new chapter will be out, and we'll be testing out the twins. I can give some thoughts and opinions and ideas if I have any. Anyway, sorry to ramble on here a bit longer at the end than I was intending to, but I guess there was a lot to go over after all. Thank you all for joining me today. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll join me for some more videos and streams on Twitch in the future. In the meantime, have a good night, everybody, and happy Thanksgiving.